There's some people here. Hi. Good evening. We'll be starting shortly. Just waiting for some more people to join. Thank you for being here. We will start. We will start shortly. Hello to everyone that is here. Bonjour à tout le monde qui est là. Shalom, shalom, Mr. Benoit. Hello, Carmela. Good evening to you too. My eyes aren't fantastic, so I'm just trying to check the chat to see who's here tuning in. Normand, bonsoir, mon ami. Bonsoir. On va commencer bientôt. We're going to start in a couple minutes. Hello, Simon. Hi to you too. Bonsoir, Lise. Bonsoir. Merci tout le monde pour être là. Thank you, everyone, for being there. I appreciate it. We're going to start shortly. You know what? I think we're good to go. Welcome, everyone. Bonsoir, tout le monde. Salut, Maryse. Bonsoir. Melissa, hello, hello. Bonsoir, tout le monde. Good evening, everyone. So I just want to go over a few things very briefly. First of all, we are going to discuss what's currently going on in Israel. Okay, if you want to ask questions, and I would ask everyone, questions only when I'm done with a brief summary of what's going on. Please don't ask questions until I tell you, okay, question and answer period is starting. S'il vous plaît, tout le monde, pour les questions, attendez pour que je dise, allez-y avec les questions. Je veux parler pour à peu près 5, 10, 15 minutes, puis après, ça serait questions. Si tu demandes des questions en français, je vais répondre en français. If you ask me questions in English, I'm going to answer in English, okay? So just a couple things. To ask questions, you need to be subscribed. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you cannot go in the chat, okay? C'est important que vous soyez abonné à ma chaîne YouTube pour aller dans le chat et me demander des questions. Si vous n'êtes pas abonné, c'est pas possible. Couple of very, very brief things. I won't be giving any medical advice on this channel. Okay, I won't be giving any legal advice. And generally, I won't be talking politics. Okay? Now, but Jared, you're going to be talking about Israel. I'm not going to be talking from a political standpoint, what's going on in Israel. I'm going to give a brief summary, and we're going to be talking about a spiritual situation from a spiritual standpoint. It's very important that you understand that. And I also just want to get out of the way right now that the situation, at least from my behalf, it's not Israel versus the Palestinians. Okay? It's Israel versus Hamas. Two different things. Israel versus a terrorist group. The war and the issue is not with the Palestinians, and you will see when we discuss the spiritual impact and the spiritual ramifications of what's going on. It's not an issue of land. It's not an issue of culture, people. It's an issue of good versus evil, and it's very, very important to understand that, okay? Just a couple things. This is probably going to last about an hour. It might go to an hour and a half, depending on how it goes and how many questions. For anyone who is interested to have more information about me, to book a service, to order my book, which still has a 5-star review after about 6 years on Amazon International, please visit the link that will be there. It's jaredheavensmessenger.com. You can find it all on my website. And very briefly, for those who don't know me, if this is your first time, I don't know how many that will be the case, but if this is your first time, I don't like to put a title on what I do, which is why I just call myself Jared Heavens Messenger. Okay, but in essence, I'm an exorcist. I'm a world-renowned exorcist. I say very humbly. I'm a haunted home specialist. I clear homes of entities. I speak to those who have passed on from time to time, so I would be considered in that regard a medium. I'm a clairvoyant. I do see the future, or I see what I'm shown from above and I pass it on. Those who know me know that I predicted a long time ago what's gone down in the last 3-4 years. Okay, and I was spot on about 99.9% of what I predicted. So what we're going to discuss here, you could probably, maybe not put it in stone like the Ten Commandments, but you can probably understand that what we're going to talk about, what I'm going to predict moving forward regarding the spiritual battle is going to be fairly accurate. Okay? Now, this is what I would like to say from the get-go. I just made myself a couple of notes here. There's a couple of things that I just want to go over that I've seen over the last few days, and I have to mention it. And I just want to say that any comments, whether in the chat, any comments on the video that are not respectful, that are hateful in any way, shape, or form, will be removed, and the person will be banned from my channel. Okay? So there has to be a lot of respect. Now, there's a few things I keep seeing, free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine. Now, we're not talking about politics here. But the last time that I checked, Israel left the Gaza Strip in 2005. It's almost 20 years ago. So I'm just curious. I'm assuming what they mean is they want the entire land that Israel is right now part of, free of Israelis and free of Jews. And I'm curious that this was an attack by a terrorist group on innocent civilians, where so far the number's about 1,200 Israelis have been murdered. And it's not just Jews, by the way. That includes Christians. It includes Muslims. And it includes foreign nationals. And I think it's about 100 foreigners that were in the south of Israel that were brutally murdered. Babies were found with their heads decapitated. Women were raped. I don't want to go down the whole thing. Many of you may have seen images and videos. Women raped, children in cages, 150 hostages, a complete barbaric, evil insanity. So when people are yelling free Palestine, and I don't hear a word out of their mouth about anything that happened to the innocent civilians, most of whom were women, children, and elderly, by the way. Okay. It kind of makes me wonder what type of people are simply yelling free Palestine, when a terrorist group just massacred 1,200 people. Okay. Furthermore, I keep seeing online where a lot of people are saying, well, in this battle, don't choose sides. Don't choose sides. Well, I think many people, probably much greater than me throughout history, have said that if you don't choose sides, you're choosing a side. You're not choosing the side of good. When you choose to sit on the fence, or, oh, well, we can't choose sides, there's innocent on both sides, there's always innocence on both sides. And I'll be the first to say that a high percentage of Palestinians are regular people, innocent people, who just want peace. There's 1 million Palestinians, over 1 million now, that live inside Israel proper. I'm not talking about the Palestinian territory in the West Bank. I'm not talking about Gaza. I'm talking about inside Israel. And the majority of them are Muslim. Okay? And most of the time, the people live side by side in peace. Okay? So when someone tells me don't choose a side, so you're telling me that you're choosing Hamas, really, because what just went down is so despicable and disgusting and barbaric that even people reporting on a situation are breaking down in tears, people that have been in war zones. Okay? And there are many people, and I can say it because I'm Jewish, there are many people that find it reminiscent of the Holocaust. The type of brutality that went down, obviously not at the same level, in the sense as we're talking 1,200 people versus 6 million, but don't fool yourself. If Hamas would have a chance, they would do the same thing to every single person in the state of Israel, in the country of Israel. So it is reminiscent of the Holocaust brutality and the evil that was going down. So when someone tells me I'm not choosing any sides, well, then you're choosing evil, because it's clear. It's a clear battle right now between good and evil. That doesn't mean all Israelis are good, for sure not. There's good and bad in all people. The same way not all Palestinians are bad. I would have to believe, and I hope that most of them don't support Hamas. Okay? But what we have just seen is intense evil on a level that we haven't seen in a long, long time. So by not choosing sides, I'm sorry, but you've chosen a side. Okay? And another thing that they mention about that is that divide and conquer. The powers that be want to divide and conquer. See, I get it, which is why I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about countries or races or religions. I'm talking about good and evil. There is no divide and conquer between good and evil. I know the type of people running the world. And some of them, of course, are even in the Israeli government. I'm not stupid. Every single country is corrupt and part of the New World Order. I get it. I understand that. I, for one, have been speaking about this since I'm 16 years old. I'm 49. Okay? I get it probably more than most of the people watching this right now and most of the people that will watch it. Okay? And I understand that those in power obviously have an agenda. And of course, it's easier to control people when you divide and you conquer them, when they're fighting each other. But this isn't a divide and conquer situation. This is good versus evil. Okay? There's no divide and conquer when at this point. Now, sure, the people in power probably, I'm sure the evil people in power love what's going on. Innocents dying, war. I get it. They love it. But when someone says, well, we can't choose a side because it's divide and conquer, then you've chosen the wrong side because you just don't understand the battle that we're in, the spiritual battle that we're in. Okay? Now, Jared, what are you talking about when you say a spiritual battle? And when I'm done, you guys can ask your questions, okay? And yes, please, by the way, like the video. I forgot to mention it. Please like right away from the beginning. The more that you like it at the beginning, the more that it will be shown on YouTube, and the more people will have access to it, by the way. So if you haven't liked it already, please do so, because it will help spread the video. Where does the spiritual battle come in? And I know my good buddy Jeff Benoit is here and he's listening. He's tuned in. I did a podcast on his podcast yesterday, where we on Monday. It was Monday or yesterday?
Monday.
It was Monday, I think. Anyways, I don't remember. I'm getting old. But the other day, I was on Jeff's podcast. It was in French, and this was the topic that we spoke about. And if you haven't seen it, it's worth going to his page, Jeff Benoit Live, and checking that out. It's fantastic. Okay, obviously you need to speak French. And we spoke about the spiritual battle. What is going on is very simple. And as I said, this is an evil that we haven't seen, the intensity and the level of evil. We haven't seen this in a long time. And the fact that already many people around the world have completely, they're not even mentioning anything that happened to the innocent Israelis. It's just free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine. It shows you how the devil has infiltrated the minds of people. This isn't about Palestinians. This isn't about Israelis. It's about evil and good. It's about God and the devil. It's about, for my Christian friends, Revelation, Armageddon, the end of days, by us, Gog and Magog. We have entered, and I've been warning about this for years, that the battle has been escalating between good and evil, and that evil is taking a hold, and it's stepping up its game, and that the energy, many of you can feel the energy in the universe, the energy here on earth, the energy in general has been a lot heavier, and it seems week by week or month by month, year by year, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Okay? We have entered the next phase. We have entered the next phase of Revelation, Armageddon, Gog and Magog, call it what you want, okay? We are there. And it's going to escalate fast. And I believe that it's going to spread, whether it takes a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or a year. I would say maximum a year. I think well before that. It's going to spread to every country. It's going to spread to every major city in every country where there will be chaos. It is reminiscent, I've seen the visions. It is reminiscent to me of a zombie apocalypse, but without the zombies. Although, not to get political and whatnot, over the last 3 years, we've seen quite a few zombies around the world. So if we put that aside, like in the movies, you're probably not going to see zombies running around, but there will be chaos in the streets, and it's going to be a very, very, very dangerous time. Very, very dangerous time, and it will be spreading eventually to World War III. How long will that take? I don't know. I don't know exactly, but it will be a lot sooner than later. It'll be within the next couple of years, if not sooner. Okay? And you need to prepare. You need to prepare not just physically, because the Torah, the Old Testament, commands us that, pray to me. God says, pray to me. It's good. I'm there for you. I'll do battle with you, but you have to do your part. I sent your soul down into the physical to elevate that physical, to take part in the physical, to work within the physical. Meaning, if you're sick, do what you have to do. If you need to take medication, you take medication. If you need to eat better, you need to get healthy, you need to do exercise, do it. You can't just sit there and pray to God. So you can prepare physically for what's coming, whether it's stocking up on food, blankets, batteries, making sure you have the means to protect yourself, legally, of course. I have to be careful what I say, okay? You need to prepare, but just as important, if not more so, you need to prepare spiritually. If you're not good with God, get good with God. And I'm going to end it on this note. And when I say end it, you can start asking questions, and bear with me with my eyesight, which isn't great. I'm going to look at the chat, and I'm going to try to see highlighted questions as they come in. Thank God I do have a great friend, Melissa, who's helping me with this on the chat. She's going to try to highlight the questions for me as they come in. And encore, n'oublie pas, vous pouvez demander des questions en français, je vais répondre en français, il n'y a aucun problème, ça me fait plaisir. Okay? I don't care how religious you think you are, meaning someone who follows an organized religion. Organized religion's not for me. I'm a guy of God. I don't need organized religion to tell me how to behave. I'm good with God. Okay? But for those who are part of an organized religion, who follow it, they go to church, mosque, synagogue, whatever it is. Okay? I don't care how religious, observant you think you are. You are not, if you're siding with Hamas. I don't care how spiritually evolved you think you are. And for those of you in the whole New Age hocus pocus movement, for those of you who think you have this Christ consciousness, and it's amazing you don't believe in Christ, but you believe in this consciousness, but that's another video. For those of you who think you've reached some high spiritual level, but you side with Hamas after what we've just seen in the videos and the pictures. And for anyone who says, oh, Jared, it's all fake. Listen, I know people down there in the South. I know people who have had friends and family missing and massacred. It ain't fake. The 1,200, give or take, it could be more by now, people that were massacred in Israel. It's real, okay? I can assure you it's very, very, very real. So the videos and images we've seen are very, very real, okay? I don't care how spiritual you think you are. You're not spiritual at all if you side with Hamas. I don't care how holy or awake you think you are. You're not if you side with Hamas. And the same way, even though I'm Jewish and I spend time in Israel, if I were to see a group of, let's say an Israeli gang, they can call themselves whatever they want, going down the street and beheading babies and raping women, I would tell you it's just as evil. I don't care who's doing it. It's evil. It's evil regardless of your race, color, background, or religion. And anyone who says, Jared, the Israelis do that, bull crap. Bull crap. I've been there. I spent a lot of time there. I spent time in the Palestinian territories. I had Palestinian friends, many. I ate in their homes. Anyone who says that's going on is a liar and or has never been there. Okay? And like I said, you have good and bad in every people, but you generally don't find too many Jews going around beheading babies and putting kids in cages and and massacring thousands of innocent. Okay. That being said, again, I will ask you to keep your questions respectful. Everyone has a right to an opinion. I see anything about bashing Jews or Muslims, because this is not about Judaism or Islam. It's about Hamas. It's about good versus evil. Anyone bashing the state of Israel at all, that they get what they deserve, they shouldn't exist, the things that I hear from the Israel haters and the Jew haters all the time, you're gone. So please keep it respectful. You have an opinion, that's great. We all do, and you're entitled to your opinion. But I hope for you, and I hope for your soul's sake, that you choose the right side, because again, this isn't about politics. This is about good versus evil. And what we saw done by Hamas, and still doing, they're using hostages as human shields. They're firing rockets. It's now, I think, over 6,000 that have been fired into Israel. They're firing rockets from mosques and hospitals and schools and private homes. Okay, knowing that Israel has no choice but to retaliate, to take out the rockets and that innocence. It's evil. Okay, it's evil. Now, go ahead, please ask your questions, and I will do the best that I can to answer them to the best of my ability. And I'm going to see if there's any questions yet. Melissa, I know you're listening. If you see someone come in with a question in English ou une question en français, please highlight it for me. It's better for my eyes to see it. So for all of you, please feel free to ask a question. It is a Q&A, so please feel free, take advantage. I spent a lot of time in Israel. I spent time in the Palestinian territories. My field, I don't like to call it work. Who I am is in the spiritual field. So I think I'm at least in a decent position to answer some questions. Is that a question there? Let's see. No, not yet. Someone says here, I know you say God does things in his own time, but why isn't God stopping all this evil that is happening? Joanna, that's a great question. And I see there's other questions. I'm going to try my best to get to it. I'm sure my friend Melissa is going to help me out. Look, I'm not God. I can't speak on God's behalf. But remember, it's not God that is doing this evil. We are. Human beings, well, a lot of them are demons, but we've allowed this to happen. And the fact that right now a good portion of humanity is supporting these barbarians shows you that it's human beings that are allowing this to happen. God has given us a chance, and he gives us a chance every day to choose right over wrong. Okay? And I understand your question is, why doesn't he step in now and just bring the Messiah? God knows better than us. Okay? And it will be in the right time. And when and believe me, as someone whose people have been brutalized and massacred since the time we were slaves in Egypt, almost 4,000 years ago, to the pogroms in Eastern Europe, to the Babylonian exile and massacres, to the Crusades, where both sides massacred Jews, Hebrews, to the Spanish and Portuguese Inquisition, to the Holocaust. My people have been asking that question for a long time. God, when are you going to send the Messiah? I ask that question every day. I pray to God all the time to please send the Messiah. So that's a very good question. I can't speak on behalf of God. What I can say is we as humans, many of us, I'm not saying necessarily us, because I don't think most of the people here did, but many humans around the world have turned from God. And that's why this evil is happening. The one thing that I can assure you is he will answer. He will answer at some point, and those who have chosen the wrong side will wish they had chosen the right side, because it will be too late. So that's the best answer I can give you. I know what's the next. Okay, so there's one there that's highlighted on the top. Let me read that question. Comment se préparer? Ben, Hélène, meilleure manière de préparer, en premier spirituellement, priez à Dieu. Sois sûr que vous êtes sur la bonne côté. Priez à Dieu. Renforcez votre connexion avec Dieu. Renforcez votre foi avec Dieu. Travaillez sur ça tous les jours. Soyez une bonne personne. Comment préparer physiquement? Parce qu'en effet, avec ce qui s'en vient, on est très limité physiquement à ce qu'on peut faire. Mais soyez sûr que vous avez chez vous assez de bouffe, OK, de l'eau, des affaires, des bottes, des manteaux, des affaires, des blankets, des affaires pour rester correct en hiver quand ça fait frais. Préparez-vous chez vous. Physiquement, si vous avez besoin de médicaments, des choses de même, soyez sûr que vous avez accès à plusieurs choses que peut-être pour 3 mois, même 6 mois, vous serez correct. OK? Et en plus, comme je dis, je vais répéter, physiquement et spirituellement. On ne peut pas oublier spirituellement. Tu peux faire comme vous voulez physiquement, mais si vous n'êtes pas prêt spirituellement, vous êtes fini. Il n'y a pas de place dans le monde qui s'en vient, alors c'est très important. Next question. I know I saw one there. Okay. Simon, hold on. Keep that one there for Marie-Christine. I'm just going to answer Simon first because I see it here, but keep the one for Marie-Christine highlighted. I'm not a baby. Okay, here. How can we protect ourselves spiritually from evil? And hold on, Simon. I'm getting you in a minute, Simon. Okay, you're next, buddy. Marie-Christine, how can we protect ourselves spiritually? Prayer is our sword. Prayer is our force field. It's the first and the last defense. Stay away from people that have a bad vibration. Stay away from the type of people that are supporting Hamas. Okay, surround yourself with positivity and good vibes, so to speak. That's the best way spiritually. And don't play around in things that you shouldn't play around in. And I know you don't. Okay, but for those who want to know what I'm talking about, don't play with tarot. Don't play with Reiki. Don't play with pendulums. Don't play with things you shouldn't be. Don't play with Ouija. Don't play around with things you shouldn't be playing around with. And make sure that you're good with God. It's the most important thing. Simon, my friend, here we go. I'm not a biblical expert, but there's something about this kind of event in the book of Revelations. Could it be that Jesus may come back in the near future? Well, whether it's Jesus or someone else, and I have a pretty decent idea of what we call Mashiach, who the Messiah will be, and I said it with Jeff Benoit on his podcast the other day. First of all, there's 2 Mashiachs. There's going to be 2 Messiahs. That's number one. It's very, very clear in the Torah and the Old Testament and the Kabbalah. Okay, there will be 2 Messiahs. And I was also very clear, without getting too complicated, that we've all been here many times before. Our souls are split many, many times. That's what the concept of a twin flame of a soulmate is. You can have many soulmates, by the way. You have one twin flame, but you can have many soulmates where your soul is split many, many times every time God sends a piece of it down. Okay? So we have to be very, very careful when we talk about Messiah, because there's some very, very holy and special people that have been on the earth that may share a soul. And that's all I'm going to say. So whether it's Jesus or not, for me, it doesn't matter. What's important is that God sends the Messiah, whoever it is. Okay, but as for your question, yes, what we're witnessing, the evil that we're witnessing right now, and how people are behaving, especially those that actually seem to have no issue with the evil that was perpetrated. Okay, and again, if it would be done to regular Canadians or Americans, and I don't want to get too much into it, but let's call a spade a spade. The fact that it's Israelis, the fact that it's Jews, most people don't seem to be as bothered as they would be if it was other people. Okay, and that's just unfortunately been our history. Okay, so to answer your question, Simon, we are, yes, this was very, very clear, and one of the first things that I said when I started this live was exactly that we've entered the next phase in Revelation, in Armageddon, in the end of days, Gog and Magog, call it what you will. Absolutely, things are going to get very, very, very bad. The light at the end of the tunnel, the good news, is that it also means that the Messiah is that much closer. Thank you for your question. Let's see here. Another question from Julie. Bonsoir, Jared. Qu'arrive-t-il comme phénomène lorsqu'une personne arrive à rejeter une mauvaise entité par elle-même? Julie, c'est une très bonne question, mais le topic de ce soir est Israël, puis la guerre spirituelle en Israël. OK? Alors, peut-être je vais répondre à cette question au plus tard si j'ai le temps ou dans une autre émission. OK? Au pire, vous pouvez mettre comme commentaire et peut-être je vais le répondre peut-être dans une autre vidéo parce que les questions pour ce soir, j'aimerais que ça soit concernant qu'est-ce qui arrive. C'est une très bonne question et je l'apprécie, mais il y a 1200 de ma peuple qui vient d'être massacré et brutalisé. Alors, je vais garder sur le sujet, mais merci beaucoup. Are we living in the Great Tribulation? Yes. When I was talking about that, that's a good question. Okay, when I was talking about Revelation, Gog and Magog, the end of days, Armageddon, I'm just throwing the different names. I didn't mention tribulation. And again, the New Testament prophecies from the disciples are a little different than the Old Testament prophecies. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it comes to pretty much the same thing. We are living in that period, the tribulation. We are witnessing some of that right now. And I forgot to mention the word tribulation, but yes, that's what I meant when I was talking about Revelation, Gog and Magog, end of days. Great question. Thank you. Why now in our times? Well, it's a good question. I'm not sure that I have an answer to that. Okay, to be quite honest. What I can tell you is we were chosen to be here in this time. God sent our souls down now to be part of what is coming. To be part, and I believe 100% with every ounce of my being, my soul, that we will see Mashiach, we will see the Messiah in our lifetime sooner rather than later, God willing. Okay? So I don't know why now, but I mean, at the end of the day, the prophecy is clear that it has to be, if I use numbers, Kabbalistically speaking, it's supposed to be a maximum since our time here, this dimension with Adam and Eve, because there were worlds and earths before, and there were people before Adam and Eve and other dimensions and worlds and earths. It's very, very complicated. But in this realm, in this earth, where Adam and Eve were the first humans, it's less than 6,000 years. Now, what I can tell you is the same way that, metaphorically speaking, God created creation in 6 days and he rested on the seventh. Time didn't exist the same for God, obviously, as it does for us, and it's actually closer to about 14 to 15 billion years. However, the concept of the 6 and 7, okay, and of course the rest day, the Shabbat, the seventh day, it means that before 6,000 years passes, 6,000 years for our time, for us, how we see time and how we experience time, 6,000 years, it has to be before 6,000 years for the Messiah to come. And I think we just celebrated, what the Jewish year was it? 5780 something?
5,700.
Well, I think we're 5,780 something. We just had Rosh Hashanah. I should know this because I celebrated Rosh Hashanah, the Hebrew New Year. We just celebrated 5,700 and something, and 84. There you go. I was right. So 5,784. So why now? It has to be before 6,000. So why not now? Why not get it over with, right? The sooner the better. Because the longer we wait, the more garbage we're going to see, the more evil we're going to see. So that's why now. Better now than later. Normand, quels sont les gains évolutifs et spirituels de ces événements présentement? C'est une bonne question, Normand. Et c'est très, très dur, pour être franc, pour plusieurs personnes, et ça inclut moi, mon ami, de trouver du positif dans qu'est-ce qui vient d'arriver. Même sans voir les vidéos, je suis tellement in tune avec le spirituel, avec ce qui se passe sur la Terre, dans l'univers, que je ressens. Je peux ressentir ce qui est passé là-bas. Alors, c'est très, très, très dur. Mais, qu'est-ce qu'on peut prendre de ça? C'est que si on n'est pas bien avec Dieu, et pour être franc, même moi, chaque jour, on doit travailler sur notre connexion, notre foi avec Dieu pour être meilleur et meilleur. OK? Le leçon pour nous, ce qu'on peut prendre de ce qui vient d'arriver, c'est de préparer puis maintenant. Et par exemple, pour les chrétiens, puis pour nous autres, les Juifs, c'est la même affaire. Ça dit dans la Bible, dans l'Ancien Testament, puis aussi le Nouveau Testament. Je sais que Jésus lui-même avait dit, le monde qui connaît que je travaille avec Jésus, on se connaît assez bien, on travaille très prochement. Même lui, il a dit exactement ça. Attendez pas. Sois bien avec Dieu. Parce que demain, ça se peut que ça soit trop tard. Jésus avait dit, je pense dans les mots à peu près de même que c'était le Messie peut venir dans le soir comme quelqu'un qui vient de voler chez toi dans le soir. Ça veut dire que ça serait trop tard quand tu es en train de réaliser qu'il est là. OK? Alors, ce qu'on peut prendre de ça, c'est que le mal existe. Et pour ceux qui n'ont pas encore choisi, puis je ne dis pas qu'on choisit les Palestiniens, qu'on choisit Israël, c'est pas ça. Est-ce qu'on choisit le bon contre le mal? Qu'on est capable de comprendre, parce qu'il n'y a aucune excuse. Même ceux qui ont des problèmes avec Israël, il n'y a aucune excuse, pantoute, de prendre le côté de ceux qui viennent de faire ce qu'ils ont fait aux Israéliens. C'est pire que barbarique, là. OK? Alors, c'est maintenant le temps pour tout le monde d'être sûr qu'ils ont fait le bon choix et qu'ils sont bien avec Dieu, puis ils commencent à se préparer spirituellement. Alors, chaque événement d'eux-mêmes, puis il y aura de plus en plus dans mes prédictions, dans mes visions, dans les prophéties, c'est clair aussi. Chaque fois qu'on voit quelque chose d'eux-mêmes, peut-être pas exactement la même chose, mais vous comprenez ce que je veux dire, on doit travailler encore plus fort sur nous, d'être la meilleure personne qu'on peut être et préparer spirituellement et à travailler sur notre connexion et notre foi en Dieu et prier de plus en plus fort. Alors, on peut prendre ça, c'est une leçon de bien préparer et d'être prête parce qu'il y a des choses qui s'en viennent, puis ça inclut le Messie. Bonne question, merci. Mel, what is going to happen here in Quebec when you say things are going to go in the next months that is related? Well, I think I was pretty clear, unless you came late, Mel. It's possible you didn't hear when I said that, and that's okay. It's going to be chaos. I said it's going to be like a zombie apocalypse without the zombies, without the, I need brain type of bullcrap. Okay? There will be chaos. Evil will spread. People are going to lose their minds. You're going to have shortages of food. And maybe electricity will go down. The power grid at some point will go down. And people won't have access to things. And if you remember in the last few years, you had some very, 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 how do I be politically correct and say oxygen deficient to the brain people that were fighting over toilet paper when it wasn't even apparently one of the symptoms of the big bad C. So if people were fighting over toilet paper, and when I say, I saw people in the grocery store that their whole carriage was filled with toilet paper but no food. And I don't give a crap. I stopped people, strangers, and said, can I ask you a question? Do you have any kids? Yeah, I have kids. How are you going to feed them? What do you mean? Are you going to feed them toilet paper, you idiot? All you have is toilet paper in your carriage. There's no food. So if people were doing that over coal, okay, what are they going to do when there's really no food on the shelves, no electricity, maybe no gas, no heating, maybe no access to water? It's going to be insane. And the level of hatred that you saw from Hamas, the level of evil that we witnessed, with them laughing and smiling and filming it and cheering and yelling Allahu Akbar, which literally means God is great. Pretty sure God is disgusted by what he saw. And he is great. I agree. I agree with them. God is absolutely great, but I generally wouldn't be yelling that type of thing if I was committing those acts. Okay, that type of level will spread here and everywhere else. I always say, and it's clear in the prophecies. I'm going back especially to the Old Testament, the Torah prophecies, the original prophecies. Okay, it starts in Israel and it ends in Israel, which is why the last final battle will be in Israel, just as it's starting. But in between, it encompasses the entire world and everyone and everything in it. I hope that answers your question, Mel. Thank you for the question. Jared cannot give, please, a brief overview of the history of the Gaza region and how Israel saw. Okay, good question. So, and actually, people have asked me about that in the past, just because there's misunderstanding. And again, this isn't politics; it's just fact. That in 2005, there were very small Israeli communities in Gaza. There was only about 8,000 Israelis. Of course, to protect them, the army was there. The Israeli army was protecting them in the Gaza Strip. There's about, give or take, about 2 million Palestinians just in the Gaza Strip. I think it's a little bit higher than 2 million now. 2005, as part of a peace deal, Israel completely withdrew. They uprooted the little communities, everything. They took everything away. And they have been, even since they're gone in 2005, it is still Israel who provides most of the water to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. It is Israel who provides the electricity. It is Israel who provides the sanitary services, the garbage trucks, this type of stuff. Okay, when there's severe illness or severe disease, situations of emergency, Israel actually takes by ambulance the Palestinians to Israeli hospitals in the south, which, by the way, one of the hospitals was hit by a Hamas rocket yesterday or today, and a couple of days ago they dropped a bomb via drone on an Israeli ambulance. Okay, that's the type of wonderful people Hamas are, and of course I'm being very sarcastic. So Israel, in effect, and they also send them money. They also send money for all these services. Okay. So it's not like Israel just left, and too bad. Israel has been supporting them in many, 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 many ways. And it's just to give a brief overview. I'm not going back to 1948. I'm not going to go back to before 1948. But since Hamas is attacking from the Gaza Strip, and by the way, Hamas is in power in the Gaza Strip. You also have the Palestinian territories in the West Bank. I think it's still Mahmoud Abbas, who is still the leader of the Palestinian faction government in the West Bank municipalities of the Palestinians. Okay, Hamas really has the power in Gaza. Okay, and it's Hamas that attacked from Gaza, so that's why we're going to focus just right now on Hamas and any questions that may be related to the Gaza Strip. So thank you, Melissa. Pierre, my buddy, Sir Derish, how many guns and ammunition should people have in their homes to protect them? Of course, that came from you. So again, I'm going to be very careful how I answer that question, especially on this on YouTube. First of all, I never suggest to anybody to get any illegal weapons. Okay, any weapons I myself own, I have a license, and everything is registered, everything is legal, and I would never tell anybody to ever get any illegal weapons. Okay. If you have a license, you are legally authorized in whatever country, province, city you're in. If you're authorized to purchase weapons, have. Okay? Have, unless there's limits imposed, have as many as you want. Okay? Now, for those of you who don't have a license, I always like to say, do whatever you have to do to protect you and your families to be ready. Now, I know sometimes we need things to be fixed around the house. Maybe with, I'm just saying, if God forbid people enter your house and they want to hurt you or steal your food, or they want to do bad things to you, you need to be ready, and you have a right to defend yourself. At least here in Canada, we have a right to defend ourselves if people try to break into our home and harm us. Someone attacks you on the street, you have every right to defend yourself. And you have to use whatever means necessary. So whatever tools you have at home, whether they be for fixing things, whether they be for cooking, whatever tools you have at home, God forbid someone tries to hurt you or your family, I would just say do anything and everything possible. And for those of you even that walk a lot, that go outside a lot, sometimes are alone at night, a quick martial arts course. Okay, just learn some basic street fighting, just a few things, and whatever is legal that you are allowed to carry or use to protect yourself, get it. And I will repeat, read between the lines. You have to do whatever you feel you need to do to be able to protect yourself and your families, because anyone who thinks it's not going to come here to Canada, I think we've seen what our government is capable of. Okay, so just know that, and that's so good question, Peter. Quebec was so close to Jesus not so long ago. Do you believe people of Quebec will return massively to God and Jesus? Well, Quebec recognized the new. Okay, so hey, Simon, that's wow, man. Très bonne question. That's an excellent question. So Simon wants to know, because here in Quebec, as very much is common for the rest of the world, but it's especially known here in Quebec that most of the people turned away from God. They turned away from Jesus. They turned away from religion. Okay, the problem was the people weren't spiritually elevated enough to understand that God and religion is not the same thing. God existed before creation. Figure that one out, but it's a Kabbalistic concept and it's legit. Okay, God created everything. He existed before creation itself. Okay, so he's been here a lot longer than religion has. Religion is a fairly new concept. It's only been about 3,000 years. In fact, even when Moses gave my people, the Hebrews, the Ten Commandments and the Torah on Mount Sinai, Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, we were Hebrews. We weren't Jews yet, per se. I mean, our soul was always Jewish, so to speak, but we were Hebrews. The concept of organized Judaism wasn't even there. It only came later. So religion in general has only been about 3,000 years. So people made a mistake. And that's why in Quebec, just like in many other places in the world, especially the rest of Canada, the United States, and Western Europe, you have so many people that went into this New Age hocus pocus, okay? Which the Torah and the New Testament both warn about. Because when they turned from religion, they also turned from God. They made a mistake. You can turn from religion, but don't turn from God. But most people here in Quebec and around the world turn from God, but their soul, which is a piece of God, was yearning for God. It understood that it needed something. So that's why a lot of people turned to whatever they could, and that's where the devil came with the New Age movement. It gave them something to turn to. Okay? So, as for the second part of your question, my friend, will the people of Quebec turn back to God? Most probably will not until it's too late. And I have news for you, even many people who believe in God will be fooled and won't even know the Messiah when he comes. They'll fall for the false Messiah, because not only are there going to be two Messiahs, but before the first Messiah and the second Messiah, there's going to be a false Messiah or Messiahs. Therefore, most people are going to fall for the devil's scam, for the devil's game, and probably not even recognize him. By the time they recognize the real Messiah, it will be too late. But I have hope, and that's why in my videos, I constantly keep telling people, go back to God, because only going back to God and praying directly to God himself and developing a connection with God, working on our faith and our connection to God, can we be spiritually strong enough to be ready for these times and for what's coming. And it takes an extreme faith. In fact, it takes one being ready to lose their life in the service of God, knowing that you have eternal life after, and the riches you have in the eternal life are far better than the riches you could ever have here. So I'm hoping so, my friend. I'm hoping so. Melissa has a question. How can we address people who claim free Palestine in a constructive way? Well, I mentioned a little bit at the beginning, and again, I don't want to get political here at all. But I can understand any people who are ready peacefully to want their own their own land. I can understand anyone who, wants their own country. That's all I'm going to say on that topic. Now, that being said, if that involves, slaughtering everyone else on the land that you think should be yours, then that's a problem. Okay. My biggest issue right now with the term Free Palestine is everyone who's screaming it literally at the day after Hamas committed this absolute barbaric and evil massacre of innocents. They were screaming Free Palestine. Not a word about what happened to the Israelis. Not a word about Hamas's brutality. And that's my issue. So I say it in a constructive way. I don't know if there's any way to really be constructive, but if you're screaming Free Palestine, not even acknowledging what Hamas did. And again, if I want, if I think that my neighbor, I should have their house. And of course, the Torah warns anyways, don't envy what your neighbor has, but that's another story. But if I want their land, okay, and I think it should be liberated for me to have it, okay? If God forbid someone is massacred, women and children, even if I still believe that land should be mine, I certainly wouldn't be screaming, free the land so Jared can take it. First, I'd be shocked at the brutality and evil that happened to them. And even if I still felt that, hey, at some point, I still want that land, boy, I'd certainly wait more than one day to be screaming it. And I'd certainly acknowledge what happened. I mean, we're all human at the end of the day, except for these barbarians, okay? We're all human. How can somebody be screaming, Free Palestine? And what they really mean by Free Palestine is they want all of Israel back. Okay, that's really what they mean. And the charter of Hamas, actually, their charter says that our goal isn't peace. The goal of Hamas is actually to drive every Jew into the sea. Okay, so if their concept of Free Palestine is 6.5 million dead Jews, obviously I don't want anything part of that. But even if you want to scream that, okay, even if that's your philosophy, okay. Can you wait more than a day? Can you at least say, what Hamas did was barbaric and wrong? I still want the Jews out of Israel, but I'm going to wait a little bit because my God, I have a mother and a father, and they were elderly massacred and kidnapped. I have kids, and there were kids murdered. I've had babies. There were babies decapitated. I'm a woman, maybe, or I have a wife, or I have a sister and a mother, and my God, they were raping women, and people were dragging them down the street after they were raped, and they were sodomized, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's my biggest issue. The people that are screaming Free Palestine a day after 1,200 Israelis were butchered, most of whom were women and children, by the way, okay? What can you really say to that? And anyone who supports that, they think they have a place in the world to come. They're sadly mistaken. I'll tell you that much, but that's an excellent question. This is probably a stupid question. Well, I like to believe there's no such thing as a stupid question. But do you think it's possible that if aliens do show up from the rapture, will happen and the government will blame it on aliens Okay, not really relevated to Israel. But the reason I'm going to answer it compared to why I didn't answer the last question asking about getting rid of evil entities was because I am talking about the rapture. I am talking about Revelation. I'm talking about tribulation. I'm talking about Armageddon and Gog and Magog and the end of days. So your question is at least somewhat relevant to this topic. And I have predicted, by the way, a fake alien invasion. But it won't be beings from other planets. It will be the fallen ones. It will be the fallen angels, orchestrated, of course, by the devil and their children. It will be, and in many ways, they look like what we perceive aliens from other planets to look like. Okay, and don't get me wrong. I'm going to get very Kabbalistic here, and I'm going to keep it simple, but there are many, many other planets in the universes, because there's more than one universe, and dimensions and realms that are inhabited, both by angels and by other beings. Okay, But what we will see is a fake alien invasion, but they will use that, of course, to push their own their own agenda. Okay, and that's pretty much what I'm going to say about that topic. But just know that again, that's a massive part of the spiritual battle, because they'll claim, of course, that they're here to save us from ourselves, and we only need to bow down to them. Okay, and unfortunately, most people will to save themselves. So that's part of the agenda, my friends. So that's a great question. And here's a question from my brother from another Irish mother, Jeff Benoit. What are your thoughts about CBC's memo towards journalists to not refer to Hamas as terrorists? Well, again, that's a good question, Jeff. And again, I'll try to answer it in a non-political way. Um, to me, it's the same as someone saying, well, we shouldn't choose sides. First of all, CBC, many of us call it the Communist Broadcast Corporation, not the Canadian Broadcast Corporation. They're funded by the current government that we have, and I think anyone in Canada understands what type of government we currently have. The other day, they actually, I won't say the term because I don't want the video to be banned, but let's just say the type of people that ran Germany in the Second World War, we call them by an N word, right? An A word. Well, they actually had a live one, a Ukrainian one, in Parliament the other day, and they all cheered. I mean, they had the bum from Ukraine, who himself was part of that crowd here coming to ask for more money. And he openly, said how great one of the people visiting was, who was a well-known, NA, and everyone in Parliament cheered. So there's no surprise. I mean, even in Canada, Hamas is labeled as a terrorist organization, even by the government here. It's labeled as a terrorist organization. The RCMP, CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, labeled Hamas a terrorist organization. The United States labels Hamas a terrorist organization. Most countries in the world have labeled Hamas a terrorist organization. So for the fact that the CBC sent out a memo to its journalists that we shouldn't refer to Hamas as terrorists, I think speaks volumes, and it tells me everything I need to know about the state of affairs in journalism and the media. Okay? And it's pretty sad, because even Anderson Cooper on CNN, who's about as left-leaning and New World Order-ish as you can get, was crying on air, talking about how barbaric the terrorists were in what they did when he was interviewing people. Okay, so the fact that the CBC themselves refuses tells me in Canada we have a big problem. And when I say that, shit's going to hit the fan, and that includes Canada, when you have the media arm of the government telling its journalists not to refer to Hamas as terrorists, I think we understand there's a very, very big problem. What's coming in this country is going to be very, very bad. And I think we even discussed briefly on your podcast, Mr. Benoit, the other night, that when good nature, freedom-loving people were in Ottawa a couple of years ago, they were trampled by horses and by the police and the RCMP, and they were beaten and called terrorists just for standing in the street singing the national anthem and asking for freedom. Yet you had people the other day in Ottawa, some of them holding a certain flag that we just said of the type of people running Germany during World War II, while he's chanting Free Palestine. And there were no police in sight. So I think that tells us everything we need to know about the current state of affairs here in Canada. Qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire de notre côté afin d'aider à la situation? Well, Melissa, tu veux dire quoi par ça exactement? Aider dans le sens de aider ceux qui ont été massacrés, aider les Israéliens? Si c'est ça la question, je vais dire que, écoute, j'ai un ami actuellement qui était dans le militaire, comme moi, qui était dans le militaire ici au Canada. Et lui, il voulait aller en Israël pour leur aider. Je lui ai dit, écoute, ils ont déjà assez de soldats. Je pense qu'il y a peut-être 100 000 réservistes qui sont appelés présentement. Alors, ce qu'eux autres ont besoin présentement, c'est deux choses. C'est que ceux qui comprennent la vérité soient pas peur de dire la vérité. Souvent, je reçois des messages. Oui, Jared, je suis avec toi, je suis avec les Israéliens, c'est terrible, c'est vraiment, je suis pour Dieu, je suis pour le bon contre le mauvais, mais ils ont peur de le dire. C'est important que le monde, spécialement maintenant, c'est le temps de montrer qu'on est avec Dieu, qu'on est avec la vérité, qu'on est avec la lumière de Dieu, puis la vérité est la lumière de Dieu. Alors ça, c'est numéro 1. Puis numéro 2, c'est les prières. Hein, souvent, on prie pour nous autres, mais je vais te dire de quoi. Quand on prie pour les autres, ces prières sont très, très, très fortes. Dieu, il adore ça qu'on prie pour les autres. Et quand on prie pour les autres, Dieu est beaucoup plus prêt aussi pour faire pour nous ce que nous autres en demandons dans nos prières à lui aussi. Alors, les choses qu'on peut faire le plus, c'est de dire la vérité. Soyez pas peur de dire la vérité partout. Et de prier à Dieu pour sa terre Israël, pour sa peuple Israël, parce que pour Dieu, la peuple et la terre, c'est uni, c'est la même chose. C'est pour ça que la terre et la peuple est aussi appelée Israël. Compris pour eux, et compris pour la paix, et compris pour le Messie. Et si chaque personne ferait ce prière-là, ça arriverait tout de suite. Si tout le monde le ferait. Also, everyone, please, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel if you want to ask any questions. I see there's another question. Qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire de votre côté? Okay, no, you already asked that question. So I don't know if there's any others. We're watching the greatest show on earth. Is that me, or I'm not sure what they mean by we're watching the greatest show on earth? If you're talking about my life, well, thank you very much. I don't know if it's the greatest. I think it's decent. If you're talking about that Revelation, Armageddon, it will be the greatest. We're told in the Torah in the Old Testament that the miracles that we saw in Egypt when God took the Hebrews out of Egypt will be child's play compared to the miracles we're going to see when he sends the Messiah. If you're referring to that you think it's all fake and it's all a scam, then I can't help you. So it's a very vague comment, so I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Hopefully it's not that. Okay. Yes, Revelation. Thank you for answering. So yes, we will witness the absolute greatest show on earth. And like I said, anyone who's ever watched the movie The Ten Commandments, you have a little bit of an idea of what God pulled off. And by the way, it was a lot more than that. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but you have an idea of the miracles that God pulled off. And it says in the Torah and in the prophecies that what we witnessed when we left Egypt will be nothing compared to what's coming. It will pale in comparison. It will be literally like a cheap magician's trick compared to what we're going to see when God sends the Messiah. So you are absolutely correct. We will witness the greatest show, not just on earth, but the greatest show in all the universes, my friend. Should people start reconnecting with nature, meaning relearn how to grow their own food and hunt? Very good, very, very, very good question. And the answer is yes. Okay, I'd like to do more of it myself. Very difficult with 5 kids and working as I do, but ideally, it's not a bad idea to either start growing your own food or be connected with people who do and you can chip in, or at the least learn how to hunt. Like if you would be in nature and you had no food, what would you do? You should at least know about some of the plants. You should absolutely know, have an idea if you don't legally own any weapons. If you can get legal slingshots or whatever they have out there, you should be able to know how to hunt if need be. Okay. So either way, it's a very good question, Pierre. It's absolutely essential that people have an idea. If there's no food and they haven't had a chance to properly stock up or they run out, what are you going to do? Okay. So either you're able to grow some, so you have some type of supply constantly coming in. And of course, it would have to be either indoors or whatnot, because here with the climate, we only got a few months to be able to do that. And or know how to hunt. It's very, very, very important. Okay, so that's a very good question. So I don't know if there's any more questions coming in. I'll give it 1 minute to see. Hopefully. somebody learned something. Hopefully I've helped somebody. If not, it is what it is. I see another question. I'm going to answer that in a second. What's important for me is that people realize that we're in a very, very, I don't want to use the term special, because what just happened in Israel is, like I said, it reminds me of the Holocaust. But we are in a very difficult yet special time, where we've entered the next phase of Revelation, Tribulation, Armageddon, End of Days, Gog and Magog. And that will lead to the Messiah. So what's important for people to take from this is they really need to be ready and get good with God. And now, because tomorrow might be too late. So here's Julie. Est-ce qu'on pourrait se réunir en live pour envoyer de bonnes intentions et prier pour eux tout ensemble avec toi, Jared? Ben, Julie, c'est une bonne question, merci. Écoute, c'est une bonne idée, mais c'est pas nécessairement facile. C'est pas nécessairement faisable. Tout le monde, pas juste moi qui travaille 7 jours sur 7 et avec 5 enfants. Tout le monde a leur vie, tout le monde a leur emploi, tout le monde travaille, tout le monde a leur commission, leurs affaires, leurs enfants, leurs responsabilités. C'est pas facile vraiment de réunir tout ensemble, même en live. C'est pas toujours facile, même en ligne. Okay? Pas nécessairement en personne, mais même en ligne. Alors, ce que je suggère, et c'est une très bonne question et j'apprécie, merci beaucoup. L'intention est excellente, c'est exactement ça que je parle, des intentions de même pour changer la terre, pour changer le mal au bon. OK? Pour commencer, peut-être un jour, ça serait faisable. Et en s'entendant, j'aimerais ça. J'aimerais être 1 million, 2 millions de personnes tout ensemble, prier en même temps. Wow! Oh boy, la terre shakerait là. Mais au moins, en attendant, juste prier toi-même aussi souvent que tu veux et parler aux autres, de prier, de faire la même chose. Et tu peux faire une très, très, très grande différence. Et oui, j'espère un jour que peut-être tout le monde ensemble, on serait capable de prier ensemble, puis ça changerait beaucoup de choses. C'est une très, très, très bonne idée. Présentement, c'est peut-être pas aussi faisable que j'aimerais, mais peut-être éventuellement, Julie, ça serait, au moins pour moi, ça serait quelque chose d'incroyable d'être réunis. Mais pour ceux qui vont à l'église, pour ceux qui vont au synagogue, pour ceux qui écoutent, qui sont peut-être des musulmans, qui vont au mosquée, pour ceux qui vont au temple hindou ou sikh, vous pouvez demander aux pasteurs, aux prêtres, aux rabbins, aux imams, aux ministres, de demander à tout le monde de prier ensemble pour la terre d'Israël et pour le peuple d'Israël. OK? Et pour ceux qui vont me dire, oh, Jared, les musulmans ne vont jamais faire ça, c'est pas vrai. Il y a beaucoup de musulmans qui habitent en Israël, qui sont pour Israël. Il y a ceux qui font l'armée en Israël. Je connais des musulmans qui sont très pour Israël, ou au moins contre les terroristes. Alors, ce n'est pas important votre religion ou votre background. Vous pouvez demander à votre propre maison de Dieu que tout le monde prie pour la terre et le peuple et que Dieu envoie le Messie. You're very welcome, Joanna. I see saying thank you. OK? Alors, peut-être ça vous aide, Julie. Alors, can the Israeli-Palestinian conflict use the A-bomb? Well, can it use it? Well, that's a different story. Here's the problem, and I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that any such weapon should ever be used, and I don't think that the Israelis would ever. In fact, I know for a fact they would never do that. Okay. But even were they willing to do that, and again, they're not, and nor should they, because there'd be way too many innocent people that get affected. But the blowback, I mean, Israel is right next to Gaza. So even if someone were to drop something like that, the radioactive waste is just going to fly right back into Israel. So it's not feasible. Okay, and nor would I, something like that is a last resort. Like for example, whether or not it's true, and I believe it was, they say during the Yom Kippur War, when Israel looked like it was about to be completely destroyed, that Golda Meir had some planes in the sky that had that they were ready to drop on Cairo and Damascus as a last resort, even with the nuclear fallout, because if your people are all going to get massacred, you have to do whatever you have to do. So it's not really an option, nor right now should it ever be, just because of the damage that would be done. That's always for me an absolute last resort, and I know that Israel's goal, I know it, okay, is to try to avoid as much as possible civilian damage, which is why they're choosing specific targets to hit. Obviously, there's civilians around there, unfortunately, okay. But when you drop a massive weapon anywhere, the collateral damage is just way above beyond what is necessary. So that's why I don't believe that that's an option, nor should it ever be an option, unless it's an absolute last resort. You have absolutely no choice, and your people are going to get wiped off the map, and you have that type of thing. That's when you use it. So I hope that answers your question. I would never suggest that they use such a thing, nor would I want to see such a thing ever used on anyone. Okay, but I understand your question, and I understand the point. It's right now it's just not an option, unfortunately, or rather fortunately, because it should that should never be an option if and when it can be avoided. So ben Julie, ben merci beaucoup, c'est très gentil, j'apprécie énormément. Je remercie tout le monde qui est là avec moi. S'il vous plaît, likez la vidéo, le live si ce n'est pas encore fait. Abonnez-vous, s'il vous plaît, partagez-le. Partagez-le sur tous vos médias sociaux aussi. Ça va aider le monde à le voir, à répandre la chaîne. Everybody, please, thank you very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. We fit almost an hour and 15 minutes. If you haven't liked this yet, please do so. Please like it. Please subscribe if it's not already done. And please also share it. It's important to share it on all your social media. Let other people hear the truth. Let other people understand what's going on. Let other people be aware of what's going on spiritually, and maybe they can also prepare for what's coming. It's very, very, very important. A lot of people are always shy to share things. Don't. That's why Jesus told his disciples, go out, speak what I'm telling you to speak. Spread the good word. Okay? It's why we're commanded in the Torah, and of course Jesus, being a Jew, knew that since he was a rabbi. We're commanded to spread the word of God. We're commanded to let other people know the reality and the truth. We don't force it on anyone. I speak it, you listen, great. You don't, that's also great. You have free choice. God gave all of us free choice. It's what separates us from other beings and animals, so to speak. Okay? So please share. And thank you all for being there. What did... Yeah, guys, listen, Marjo a raison. Écoute, Julie, Marjo, d'autres, si jamais vous voulez partir un groupe online, en ligne ou en personne, où vous voulez rassembler du monde, essayer de rassembler du monde pour prier, parfait. Il y a pas de mal. Essayez ça. Toutes les prières de n'importe qui. C'est pas juste que Jared, avec mon travail que je fais, que mes prières sont plus importantes que les prières des autres. Toutes les prières sont très importantes également. Chaque prière, sincère prière à Dieu est très important. Alors, voilà. Thank you for being here. Merci beaucoup. Okay. God bless everybody. Que Dieu vous bénisse tous. And we pray, on va prier que ça finisse bientôt la situation en Israël et que Dieu envoie le Messie. Comme on dit en hébreu, je vais le dire en anglais et en français, on veut le Messie maintenant. We want Mashiach now. We need him. On a besoin de lui tout de suite. God bless. Jared out.